Hi, I'm Paul Potratz with Helderburg. Today we're going to talk about Bayuex, the D110 Double Cab. But it's not just any double cab, it's in a custom Bahama Gold Pearl. So you've probably seen the pictures, you've probably seen the Instagram, you've probably received the emails, or maybe you haven't. Today, I'm going to talk about Bayuex, the D110 Double Cab. But before I get into it, let me tell you about the D110 Double Cab, because oftentimes people confuse a D110 Double Cab with a D130. The D110 is actually 110 inches. That's what the number means, 110 inches from center of wheelbase to center of wheelbase. There's another option called the D130, which is a pickup truck, but it's 130 inches center of wheelbase to center of wheelbase, meaning that it's 20 inches longer. With the D130, it has a separate bed on the back versus you'll notice in the D110 Double Cab, it's one body. It's basically a unibody. It does not have a separate bed. So that's how you tell the difference. So the D110 Double Cab became really popular in the movie James Bond's Spectre. So that's what they had in Spectre, was the D110 Double Cab. It's also very popular in Europe, but it's extremely rare. They didn't make many of this body style. There is kits where you can make a D110 Double Cab, but it's not the true British D110 Double Cab. How many times can I say D110 Double Cab? So this is a true British D110 Double Cab. And you'll notice it has that Spectre look. If you did watch the movie Spectre, they were lifted, they were on 35-inch tires, they were on Maxxis Trepador tires. They had the nudge bar, which is actually kind of a modern design. It had the double level or the tri-level bumper with a winch on it, had this type of grille. So really it's the same basic setup, but it's a creation that I came up with to change the color. Anyone can do a black Defender. This one, Bahama Gold Pearl. So Bahama Gold was actually a color that was used on the Range Rover, but what we did is we took it, we put it on the Defender, we did a different primer base, and we added a little bit of pearl to the paint to give it a different look. In pictures, it's hard to capture. It looks almost school bus yellow at times in pictures, but in real life, when you're actually here looking at it, it has a green-brown undertone. It's a deep muted yellow with, again, a green-brown undertone. And I would tell you, I was at a recent event with Orvis, and this was probably the favorite vehicle, not just because of the stance, but the color. It's a classic color, but it has a modern feel. And in fact, Range Rover, even though Range Rover is owned by Tata Motors now out of India, they brought this color back on the Range Rover, Bahama Gold that is. But their color is a little brighter, a little more yellow. Again, this one's a little more green-brown undertone. So starting with the front, where I talked about the bumper, you notice no LED lights. It is a pretty solid steel bumper. It's thick steel. It's thicker than the other bumpers you see with the LED lights. It does have the winch, which is actually a worn Xeon, and it is the 10,000-pound winch with a synthetic rope. It's also, grill-wise, the grill is a standard KBX plastic slat grill. Not my favorite type of grill, but I was recreating the Spectre bill. It does have the Puma bonnet. Puma meaning that it actually has the hump in the bonnet versus the Heritage bonnet is recessed. It does have the checker plate on top of the wings, and it does have, this is called a Spectre style brow or wheel arch. It sticks out really far. It's attached by rivets, and the reason that it's attached by rivets is that way it can break away. So if you hit brush, it's designed to break away a little easier and not cause damage to the body. These are the disposable things when you're actually out and four-wheeling. And then, of course, with these tires, the Maxxis Trepador tires, it throws up a lot of gravel. So these arches, these eyebrows are going to take a lot of abuse. Again, designed to come off easily and replace. Notice that I kept the body color and the arch is the same color. I just prefer it to be this way. It's a little sleeker, a cleaner look than if I was to paint the arches like a black or a different color. It does have the KBX plastic top vents and side vents. And then on the bonnet, I do have billet aluminum hinges on the bonnet, and then the billet aluminum brackets on the windscreen. The windscreen does not fold down. You can do one that folds down, but with a hard top, it's a lot of work. It's not worth the time. So it doesn't fold down, but it does have the actual vents under the windscreen here that open up to give you that fresh air. This is just a really cool classic design. This build, as all Helderburg builds, is from a ground up build. And I will warn you, if you see one of a Defender on our website that's available now, that's really a rare occurrence because everything is built to order. So we built this for John. He was in Sun Valley. He's been waiting over a year for this one to be completed. He was just here to see it, and he fell in love. In fact, he's in love with it so much, he said, let's build another one, except a D90. All right, so moving around the side a little more, I mentioned the Maxxis Trepador tires. These are all just mud tire, straight out. They're not a all-season tire. This is a mud tire. They do really well in the snow, I'll tell you by if you watch any of the Enzo videos. It does have a bead locker style wheel. This is a lot of unslung weight. Tire itself weighs almost 90 pounds. Wheel weighs about 50 pounds. It does have cross-drilled rotors, so it's got more stopping power, and the calipers are a little larger. So tire size, again, I've already mentioned it, but it's a 35-inch tire. The wheels are 12.5 inches wide, so it gives it that really wide stance. I don't use wheel spacers. Those are not safe. So on this, it does have Salisbury axles, which is a heavier duty axle. It has a heavy duty prop shaft. It has heavy duty transmission, heavy duty transfer case. Everything is heavy duty. Again, this is a lot of unslung weight. That's putting a lot of abuse on the truck when you're driving down the highway just normal, and even more so when you're off-roading. But this was built for off-road. It does have Fox shocks. This one has a little over almost 2, almost 3 inches of a suspension lift. It's not a body lift, no body lift. It's all suspension. So Fox shocks, and then we have really a progressive style spring. So the progressive style spring gives it a little more of a comfortable ride. And I did put sway bars or anti-roll bars on the front and rear to just eliminate that body roll. Not the ideal situation if you want a lot of articulation when you're off-roading, but it's going to be fine for the type of off-roading it's going to go through. And yes, it will be off-roaded. I know John well. He's gonna be in the mountains. He's gonna be in Moab with it. He's going to have fun with this, there's no doubt. It does have a full roll cage. It's a 6-point roll cage. And just so you know, it doesn't just bolt to the wings here. There's a cutout right here, and the bar goes all the way to the frame where it's tack welded and bolted. It's a 6-point system. So anytime you lift it, I would say definitely consider doing a roll cage, because the entire body, the roof, everything is aluminum. So it's important to get that extra support. Engine-wise, it's a 300 TDI, which is bulletproof. 300 TDI is a 2.5 liter. It's a fuel injected, but it's a mechanical fuel injection, and it has a VNT turbo. It has a custom built injection pump, 3-inch downpipe exhaust that's a straight through exhaust system. It has a full width intercooler in it. It has an XL radiator in it. So we've done a lot of modifications to get more power out of that motor, and then of course re-geared everything, because with these bigger tires, it's going to take more gearing, and it does move nice down the road. Again, John, he came and drove it. He's had several Defenders as well as Ferraris and Porsches and everything else, and he was very pleased with the power and how it would go down the road. So engine-wise, 300 TDI, I'm going to talk about that real quick. The beauty of the 300 TDI is it's the last of the mechanical motors. It does not have electronics. It doesn't have Lucas electronics. Repairing one of these is really easy. It can be done with basic tools, and the parts are really easy to find. There's a number of companies in the States like Rover's North, British American, Lucky 8 Off-Road, there's Rimmer Brothers. I mean, the list goes on where you can get the parts. And even some of the parts you can get at places like Advanced and AutoZone. It's easy to find somebody to work on it because it's a very simple 4-cylinder turbo diesel motor. An individual that can work on a John Deere, a Kubota, or a diesel like a Ford or a Dodge or whatever can work on one of these. Again, it was designed to be used in the bush, in the outback, and the remotest parts of the world. And if you have anything that goes wrong with it, you would be able to fix it easily with basic tools and basic parts. And I just can't tell you enough how bulletproof they are. 300 TDI Defenders are highly sought after through the entire world. And that's because we only have 2 more years, as of doing this video in 2021, only 2 more years of this motor being available. But I will say that there's a lot of the 300 TDIs have already been picked through and found, because this vehicle is a 1996 model. They have to be 25 years old to legally come into the United States. So finding a 97 or a 98 or a 96 is quite difficult. That's why we keep a stock of around 80 to 90 Defenders in our barns all the time. So when you're ordering a Defender from us, a built to order, bespoke, custom built, all of our prices include the Defender, and we already have the stock in place. It's been said that we have more inventory than anybody else. So that I can't verify, but I know we have a lot. So looking at the side, the first thing that I want you to notice in a Helderburg is the gaps, the lines. The gaps and lines in a Helderburg are always perfect. And one of the things that we do on all of our builds, not only is all of the seals, these seals, the felt inside the windows, the glass, the gauges, the steering wheel, the seat frame, the foam, the springs, the carpet, the headliner, everything is new in a Helderburg. But even the doors. So we go with a newer style door, instead of taking the cheap route, because these doors are known to have galvic corrosion. Everything is aluminum. So the door skin's aluminum, but the frame inside the door is steel. The earlier model doors, the aluminum would touch the steel and it would create the bubbling. And what you'll see a lot of times in the rebuilds of other rebuilds, what they'll do is they'll just sand it down and then they'll glaze it, but then that galvanic corrosion will come back in a couple of years. This is a British Defender. There's a difference, guys, but this is a British built. It's not from Greece, it's not from Turkey, it's not from South Africa, it's not from Japan. It's a British built, and there is a difference, and that's what will demand the prices, British built. We put it through the British Heritage Registry, which gives us a report of the number on the body, the frame, the engine block, the transmission, and we keep most of those numbers matching. But I can tell you easier what is not new on this. In other words, what do we keep original, then I could tell you what all we replace. So to kind of tell you what's original is most of the body, again, the doors are replaced, and a lot of times the front wings are replaced. So most of the body is original. The frame is original, the engine block is original, and then the dash is generally, some of it is original. And that's really about all that's original in our builds. Everything else has been replaced. And that's the beauty of a Helderburg, because it's essentially a brand new vehicle. We go with a new style door where this aluminum skin actually has a spacer in between the steel frame. So we're eliminating the chance for galvanic corrosion. So this truck will stay fresh looking for many, many years. Probably past my lifetime or John's lifetime, it will still look fresh as long as you wash it, wax it, keep it clean, take care of it that way. You'll notice the billet aluminum hinges that actually have safety bolts, because the Land Rover Defender is the most popular vehicle for car theft in the UK. In the States, we don't really have that problem because it has a very advanced security system in it. It's called the 5-speed manual transmission. It will keep millennials from stealing it. So, and I meant that as a joke, by the way. So anyway, moving around the vehicle, the windows, the glass is all new. We go with a thicker glass. So instead of a 4mm glass, we go with a 5mm glass, and that's on the side windows, the windscreen. This has a heated windscreen too. But with the thicker glass, it's also less prone to scratches, because the original Land Rover glass scratches really easy. It's thicker, so it helps do the sound deadening too. As a standard for a Helderburg, we do extensive sound deadening. If you knock on the doors, you can hear it's solid. It sounds like you're knocking on a piece of lead. Original Defenders, or a lot of the other builds, they sound very tinny. and that's because it's all aluminum. So we do 3 layers of butyl rubber, 1 layer of foam through the doors, through the floor, through the roof. We encase everything inside this vehicle. In addition, we do a special spray compound that goes before the insulating, before the foam and the butyl rubber go in. And what it does is it actually helps the R factor, meaning the insulation factor. This one has our custom air conditioning in it, which when you look at look at it in depth, you'll see it doesn't have that low hanging air conditioning unit that actually blocks your knees, and it just gives you more leg room. It just opens everything up. So we combine the air conditioning and the heat, so your defrost works extremely well. With air conditioning, it's 11,400 BTU. Heating is 10,800 BTU. That's efficient enough to cool a 600 square foot room, and it's not 600 square feet in here. So what else can I tell you about it? Other than it's lifted, it's Bahama gold, it's a D110 double cab, and it's beautiful. So let's move into the interior, because that's where it's really different, and it's almost like a cigar bar or a British library. So now we're in the interior of Bayuex, and the first thing you'll probably notice, well, I don't know what the first thing is, but I will tell you, the seats, the leather is beautiful. The steering wheel is beautiful. So let me start with the steering wheel. The company that we use for the steering wheel is a very small company. It's staffed by 3 individuals, and this steering wheel took about 19 weeks to receive. Part of it's supply chain issue, but the biggest reason is the center boss is all solid aluminum. The center boss meaning the center hub. It's billet aluminum, and the spokes are billet aluminum, and then the wood is walnut. Most of the steering wheel, well, I won't say most, all of it is done by hand. As you will see, most Helderburgs, there's a number of parts that are done by hand, meaning steering wheels are done by hand, the gear shifter's done by hand, the actual creation of the seats. The seat frame is designed to the individual, to the driver, meaning that the seat frame is built for that person based on their size. The center cubby is designed for the person based on their size, like their sleeve length and their height, so it becomes the ideal armrest. The seat itself, basically under your hamstrings, we build the foam up, whether or not you like your legs to be a little lower or you like them to be a little higher. The pedals are adjusted to the person, to what their length of their legs are. The stitching or the actual gaiter around the shifter boot, everything is done by hand. And that's what's beautiful about the Defenders, that there's very few parts that you can pick off of a shelf. That these parts are made in independent shops, small shops, where it's only staffed by 2 or 3 guys working in a shop creating these parts. And then where you see the various suppliers, whether it's Lucky 8 Off-Road, Rovers North, whatever it is, everyone's getting the parts from these same little shops. So any given item on a Land Rover Defender, there's only maybe 2 or 3 companies at the most that are making those parts. Even when you're looking at the dash itself is all done by hand. The billet aluminum vents on the top, that's for the air conditioning and the heat, is all by hand. So I can't stress that enough. This is hand-built, ground up. The interior, though, is a chocolate leather with a caramel stitch, with a diamond stitch. We call this the Mulliner package. And then there's the seat style, which is more of a racing style seat, again, fitting in with that Spectre feel. We have 5 different seat styles, this being one, the racing style seat. In the rear, you'll notice what we did is we put in 2 seats and a center cubby, but we custom built the box. We raised the cubby up so for the passengers in the back, they have a good armrest, but the custom box is also for the subwoofer. And we don't do a subwoofer for that thump bass, we do it for a full sound. This does have a hi-fi audio system in it, where we separate the speakers. The tweeters are in the dash, and then the mid-range is actually low below the seats and the seat box themselves. And then we custom built another box in the very rear behind the seats where we put speakers back there too. And then the amplifier is mounted below the driver's seat in the battery box along with the battery. So this is a hi-fi audio system, but it also has a lot of clarity. It's a crystal clear system that is a hands-free, Bluetooth, and does have the ability for a backup camera, but John opted, he said, I don't need a backup camera, I can back up. So air conditioning, again, you'll notice there's no low slung unit here, that it just really cleans everything up. So bringing everything together, again, chocolate leather, it's bespoke leather. The leather comes from Scotland, and then the seats are actually assembled in England. So chocolate leather here, chocolate leather on the dash with the matching caramel stitch, and then even the headliners at brown, chocolate, Alcantara suede, and then the stitching around the sun visors matches the stitching in the seat and the dash. So everything's matched all the way through, even the door panels, we call these door cards. It does have roll-up windows, which honestly I do prefer over the power windows. But again, it's a chocolate leather with the caramel stitching, and it does have additional sound deadening and padding and the door panels to give it that plush feel. So the interior all comes together. And again, I'm excited that John was so excited to actually see it and spend some time in it. It's got a lot of the modern conveniences, Apple CarPlay, USB ports. It does have power steering. I'm asked that a lot of times. It is a power steering. It is a 5-speed manual, but we have a special design on our clutches that the clutch is very easy to push. In fact, you can push the clutch with basically 2 fingers. That's how easy it is. Automatic transmission is something that I prefer not to do because it's only a 3-speed automatic, really slow, really not very enjoyable to drive. So that's Beirut, the D110 Double Cab.